Well, I'm very excited. The director of the Fort Myers Film Festival here, our 11th season, we are kicking off our opening night ceremony with a very exciting film, Pooling to Paradise. And we have with us some cast and crew with us here today to talk about it. For those who are able to join in Fort Myers, we're having some in person and some online. But our opening night red carpet will be very safety conscientious, of course, but it'll also be pretty exciting. So we are very excited, though, to talk right now. I want to introduce the writer of Pooling to Paradise, Caytha Jentis. Caytha, how you doing?
I'm good. Writer and producer, but yeah, I am. Yeah, well, just throw every little hyphen at it. Also, I was the car driver when we went to.
And you made an appearance into kind of a Hitchcockian.
Yes, I do that in all my films, usually just because I'm cheap background.
Oh, yes, of course. And then we have Marc with us too. Caytha, would you introduce Marc to the rest of us?
Yes, this is the fabulous Marc del Negro. Yeah, that we connected because he's a producer, has a bunch of projects he could tell you about if you're curious. But he stumbled upon my script and was a huge fan of it when I was in this sort of, I guess, pre-production development stage, and he signed on and. We were doing casting and trying to put the best ensemble together. And Marc said, "Hey, I got the best idea for your Sean character." And he's the one that introduced me to Jonathan Lipnicki because they'd worked together on another project. And, he was perfect for that role.
And let's throw it over to Marc. We will get into the whole cast of characters. I do want to hear about the conception of the story. But Marc, tell us a little bit about the connection between seeing this script and thinking, I know who just was right for this, Jonathan Lipnicki. For those who probably know, in Jerry Maguire, Stuart Little, to name a couple. And tell us about how you got Jonathan interested or into this role.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to receive this invitation. Secondly, Caytha and I had connected. It was more of a collision course. She was, friends with other producers and directors I had worked with, David Gear, Jacob Cooney, etc. And I had met Lipnicki on a set in suburban Connecticut a couple of years prior. And like I said, Caytha and I, we stumbled upon each other because we were pretty much in the same networks with each other, but, we just hadn't collaborated. And she sent me the script. I read it. And at the time I read the script, how can I say this? Everyone had been cast, but as you know, when you're going through certain agencies, it's day to day with some of them. You can send them a script and then they'll get back to you a month later. When I read it, the character Sean, I was thinking to myself, man, it's terrible that this character is already cast because Jonathan Lipnicki would be perfect in this. This is Jonathan Lipnicki to the T. And sure enough, about a week after it, Caytha had reached out to me saying, we need to cast Sean.
Yeah, because
it did not work out with the original person that we had cast. And I said, I have the perfect person. I can call him up right now. I can get him on the phone. And, Jonathan is a very genuine person. And, that's very rare in this business. I contacted him. We sent the script to both him and his agent. They both loved it. And he was on set. And here we are. If it didn't work out as well as it did, we would not be given this interview. So it was just one of those things that happened.
It's awesome. Caytha, when we're talking about, casting, in addition to Jonathan Lipnicki, we have other names, those who are more knowns and those who are up and coming. Can you brag a little on the cast that you got?
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's a small cast and an ensemble. So, we have Lynn Chen, who I believe her film was in your festival last year.
Yes.
And and she's got another film, and the film she made. So she's kind of an indie darling, Lynn Chen, been in a lot of television, but she's just super well known in these sort of prestige independent films. So she's in it. We have Dreama Walker, who is a Florida native and from Tampa, I believe. And she, was in Gossip Girl to start. She was in a really great film called Compliance in one of the leads. She was in The Good Wife, and as well as the lead in Beware the Bee, which was a network show. And she was in Quentin Taryn's last movie. What was it?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah. And so we're really, lucky to get her. And then Jordan Carlos, who's rounds out the kind of 4 people in our little Uber car or rideshare, not specifically to any company, is Jordan Carlos, who I knew in New York. He's very active in the comedy scene as a writer and a performer. And I had met him at a Writers Guild event and shared the script with him, and he just so got it, and he was perfect. And he's doing the First Wives Club for BET right now, and he's been in a bunch of television things with MTV. Had a really successful podcast called Adulting with Michelle Buteau, which sort of dealt with some of the themes that we dealt with. And then Taryn Manning is basically Jonathan Lipnicki's character Sean. That sort of motivates the story. And she was connected to a lot of people that Marc and I are connected to as well. Yeah. And we got her, and so that's really, there's smaller parts, but that's really the principles in the film.
When I oftentimes I'll watch a film and it doesn't always hit me who everyone is. I'll say that as I was watching the film, which is a terrific film, and it's very exciting, this adventure that these 4 embark upon, I wouldn't really compare it to like any other film that I've seen, although it did remind me a little bit of Sideways, like the Paul Giamatti kind of like exploration of a road trip gone in a direction that wasn't expected, but also meets The Breakfast Club or something.
Yeah, you're not the first one to say The Breakfast Club, because it's kind of a Breakfast Club. And then for me, it was a little bit, not in the world, but the story like Reality Bites, where it was these people in a time and place that are somewhat contained, kind of figuring themselves out.
Marc, maybe you can speak to when you first saw the script and as you were engaged with some of the casting, and then seeing it for the first time on screen. Can you tell me what you observed the most? Was it about what you expected, having seen the kind of beginning to completion?
Well,
the film.
Nothing's never. Excuse me?
You have seen the film, I'm guessing. I don't know. You've seen the film,
yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course I have several times. But what I'm saying is whenever you read a script and when you see the actual finished product, it's never what's up here. You know what I mean? I think that's only happened to me maybe once, where an actual scene that I wrote and directed where it actually came out identical to how I imagined it when I was reading it. But in terms of the characters, in terms of the scenery, the script, the continuity is there. So, I mean, it's a beautiful film. I'm just trying to think. I mean, the ensemble is what makes this movie. It's not really, there's no action in it. There's no tapes and all that. What this is a dialogue-driven ensemble, and someone can relate to at least one of the characters. I actually liked all the characters because at one point in my life, I knew someone, whether it be a family member, a friend, etc., and you can relate to somebody. I mean, in many ways, I think I related to Sean the most in that movie. I never, planned on blowing my brains out any time in my life. Thank God. Hopefully that never happens. But most guys can identify with Sean to where everything in life hits you at the same time. It's funny where, your job's in the toilet and the woman you're in love with hates you. And you think if you can get that woman back, everything's going to happen. But then, lo and behold, love finds you, and that's what happens with Dreama's character, to where Johnny's trying to patch his life together. Sean's trying to patch his life together by taking this, futile trip out to Paradise, Nevada. And sure enough, what he's searching for is right in front of him in this random car ride. And it happens to all of them. They're all searching for something, and it all happens in this random moment with these random strangers. And that's what makes it so special, because especially in today's world, there's all these promotions, be kind, do something for someone else. These four strangers help each other out. In my everyday life, if I see, one of those guys on the corner and stuff, I mean, there's a lot of them up in the New England area, unfortunately. I will, if I have change, I'll give it to them. If I'm walking into a grocery store, I'll open the door for someone. And that's a little act of kindness that do well. So, and in this movie, it was major acts of kindness. These people actually took each other under the wings, and that's where it's a pick-me-up movie, especially for this generation, because many, millennials are lost. One thing that Caytha didn't tout is one of my jobs is I'm a college professor, and some of my students between the ages of 18 to 32, they have a lot of work to do. They're a lot different from when we were that age. And this movie shows that millennials will identify with it. Not only millennials, but people say the Generation X, demographic who grew up liking the Breakfast Club, because it's more of a triumph for them, because they're like, you know what, I've been through this and I can relate. Or, someone in Generation X is actually going through something like that because they did not complete their dreams. 20 years ago, when somebody graduated from college, they thought they were going to go on and be this big superstar, but reality hit and they're not this big superstar. But this movie says, you know what, there's still time. And it's a feel-good movie about, millennials, Generation X, about chasing your dreams and never giving up on your dreams. And that's what makes it so special. And I believe that our viewing audience will see that as well.
Totally. In that way, and I kind of want to ask Caytha the genesis of the conception of the story. I know just a few details, and I'm curious about influence. I know how much is based on personal experience and how much you kind of filled in, or what maybe movies or shows might have inspired this approach. Because beautifully written, I thought it was wonderful. It's very unforced, and I really do like dialogue that's unforced and seems natural. I think you didn't seem like you were trying too hard, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way.
Thank you.
There was a real relaxed dialogue. So can you tell me a little about how that all started?
Yeah, well, so ironically, my last project dealt with kind of women in midlife, another crossroads, like a chapter. And through it, I kind of met a lot of people in Los Angeles in particular, but in New York, I was really found that my social group with a lot of people kind of in their early to mid 30s, kind of dealing with, kind of what it was, this adulting. And that's why I thought of Reality Bites. When you graduate college, it was this time where you're like, oh, fuck, I don't know if I can say that. Oh, I got to grow up. And then I felt like now you hit that 30 mark, because I think childhood has been extended and it's this time. And I wanted to look at people reevaluating themselves and being like, oh, now it's time for me to take stock in my life. So there are composite characters from people I knew and a little bit of things that I was going through. And that's typically, all the stories I write are very character driven stories, heightened reality stories of our times. So the true genesis, which is the fun part, was I'd met this a person in Los Angeles. I just met her, and she was single in her mid 30s. And we were going to go to dinner with a guy who was my manager at the time. And he's a little bit of he is the inspiration for the Sean character. We're meeting him, and he, unlike that character, but he was, a divorced guy. So he was reinventing himself, working very hard. And I'm in the car going to meet him for dinner. Somebody had dropped out, and the Uber driver was this kind of this hipster guy who was 29 or just turning 30, who was we were talking about Plato, and he was telling about how his mother was a feminist and they liked science fiction, but it's misogynistic. And we were having this deep conversation. We got to our stop. I'm like, wait, we're still in this conversation, do you want to join us for dinner? And
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, no, I had dinner with my rideshare driver. He was
Wow, okay. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, no, that's what started. So we're at dinner. So I'm with these two other people and the driver. Our friend shows up. He's like, wait, who's this? And he goes, I go, oh, that's Curtis. That's
driver.
And he was Curtis with a K. And I had a friend who was always Marc with a C. So I kind of go positive. And I'm like, oh, this is Curtis. And we ended up staying out till 2 a.m, just deep diving on everything. But during dinner, he said, oh, my friend found love in paradise, which gets you. And he goes, do you want to hear the story? And he told us the story about his friend who had cheated on his girlfriend in Los Angeles. And she moved back to Paradise, Nevada, where she was from. And he went there to win her back. And without telling too much about where the story is, I did fictionalize he said, well, he spent a year living there and then he proposed they're getting married. And so then I thought, oh, wow, we're together with these people that we met in an Uber. Let me take an Uber trip, take that little story and fictionalize it and blend them together. And as well, I was dealing with friends kind of really struggling with who they were in their 30s. And two, the Sean character, there were these people, which is very typical of that generation, which is the other thing. You've got student loan debt. You're working really hard and not making the money you imagined. And it's kind of taking stock in that. And that's what I kind of dealt with that character and it's a little bit like, do you know, Eric, the film, The Ice Storm? Do you remember that one? Do you, Marc? It's a very powerful movie that took place in the 70s and about people in their 40s. And these are like suburban people in Connecticut, actually. And it was this powerful, it's a really intense, powerful movie, but it was that. Oh yeah, I think it got an Academy Award nomination, but the point is these people, like looking back, like in that existential way and in that thing, they're in their late 40s and they're like, oh, like, especially Kevin Kline is like, when you realize, oh, there's no up to go anymore. This is who I am. And that time in your life where you're like, and so I wanted to put these people in these sort of crossroads and be damaged and stuck and living sort of in their own existential crisis. And then use this kind of the way when you're in a road trip, in a car or in situations like that, it's the peeling of the onions. And for me, it's through vulnerability that we sort of get to the next level. So it is this kind of existential road trip, and paradise becomes sort of this metaphor of them all wanting to go to paradise. What does it mean to each one of them? With humor.
As you were talking, go ahead, Marc.
No, precisely. And one thing I'd like to point out, sorry to interrupt, was how she was saying to where the characters, where they feel like they meet this peak and there's no more up. And you do get that feeling of the movie. However, everyone's always searching for a purpose. I mean, if you have a purpose, you're going to extend your life. That's the way how I look at it. Everyone needs to live a life of purpose. And there is a resolution in this movie to where you see these 4 individuals who you think that they're pretty much damaged goods and they can't go any higher. But then at the end of the movie, you see their purpose. Even the driver, Jordan Carlos's a character, you see his purpose is taking care of his yelling, grandmother.
Don't give it all away.
Mother, but he is meant
to see the purpose of what they're living out.
And it said, like, Jordan, to me, like, again, I think his purpose, and he is to me, like, I was looking at it also in movie metaphors when I was writing it. Like, I always like 2 other movies, which are classics, because we've talked about these other ones, like the ultimate journey movie, which is similar, is like The Wizard of Oz.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, like, you get to Oz and guess what? You've had your heart the whole time.
Yeah. So that was it. And then also, whichever way you want to call it, Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I thought, okay, here are these people coming in and they have self-discovery at the end, and it's a little bit darker than I wanted to go. But to me, in essence, the driver, Marc, is the one that's, and I wrote that in the script and explained, like, you're sort of their Willy Wonka. You're this person that's that's taking them someplace, and that is your sort of purpose. And is he a shaman or is he a sham? And that's like kind of the fun of it. And that's what I wanted to.
He's more of a sage, if you ask me.
Yeah.
He's more of a he's an unlikely sage.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
you wouldn't believe the wisdom that he has from a random, you know, I don't want to plug in any companies, but from a random driver that you meet. I mean, he was full of wisdom. You know, normally people spend thousands of dollars on the type of therapy that he gave these people on a ride to Paradise, Nevada.
Yeah. And again, I always like to bring in humor and to the, like, I mean, the way, and again, our director did that too, like it was just giving the actors some freedom. Like if you know the characters, I mean, my dialogue is always very kind of specific, and I do have a roadmap. And even though, I mean, there is a real roadmap, like in the sense, and so it's not that there's no obvious action, but the story is moving along and things that need to be planted and paid off. But the actors, and they got along so well. There was so much, keep looking to see if Johnny's popping in, but so that was, you know, and they just got along really well, which is, you hope, because they're together for many days shooting in a car.
As it kicks off the Fort Myers Film Festival, you kind of wonder where it will go next. A lot of times we'll see these films here in Fort Myers at the festivals first. And can you give away any details of?
Well, we're in negotiations with a distributor. It's happening right now. It will be released in some form. I don't want to talk specifically about.
Yeah, of course.
I think by the festival, when we're actually in person, we can really talk about it.
Okay.
But the plan is to start, because the way these windows are very different than they used to be, but it will start most likely transactionally in August. So it'll be released in August, and then,
wonderful
how it gets released. And again, too, the story, which we shot it, right in December, right before, nobody even knew. I mean, maybe some people knew about the pandemic in China, but we know it was not anywhere there. So we got it all shot before. Mm-hmm. But I do think two things that make it very timely in some ways of what we talked about. It is how important we've realized, and we've talked about how important connection is. And we all have discovered, the how important connection is, and who matters, and who's meaningful, and like what we're doing now, like this is a very contained sort of setting. And so I think, and ultimately, again, without what they all learn in that sort of Wizard of Oz way, I think is even more relevant now.
Well, wonderfully stated, and beautifully written and produced. I'll admit I got, and I won't give away the end, but I did get goosebumps, and I shed a couple of tears. It was very moving for me. But I'm Gen X. I don't know how everyone else will respond to it, but you could tell you gave a lot of TLC to the script and to the production, and we're honored to, at the Fort Myers Film Festival, to screen as our opening night film. That's Wednesday, May 12th at 7:00 p.m. We're going to roll out the red carpet, and we will have some online components, but we are screening this one live in person at the Sidney Bernday Arts Center. And for more information, check us out at fortmyersfilmfestival.com. We may leave it there, but I want to give you guys each a chance. Did I miss anything that we need to definitely say?
No, not at all. This is really exciting for us, a great opportunity. I mean, we know you guys do, like, don't pull out any stops on a festival, and, believe, because we know outside stuff is, can work. So I'm really excited to because I've done special event screenings of this initially, because movies are something, where you're not going to spread aerosol, and many of us are getting vaccinated. So I'm really excited to share this with an audience and be part of what you guys do in Fort Myers.
Well, appreciate it. We are putting safety first, as always, and not encourage anyone with immunological compromisations to come out. But we do have some online options, but you're right. We will have masking, and we spray in between each of the screenings, and everyone's got the sanitization and everything. So, and you're right, a lot of people are getting vaccinated. A lot of our audiences will be vaccinated by May when we have this. So, of course, we're encouraging everyone to put safety first. And we are moving forward. We're looking forward to it. And such an honor to spend this time with you, both Marc and Caytha. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to talking to you soon and maybe meeting you in person even sooner.
One thing before we go, Eric, I just like to say for the people who cannot attend the Fort Myers Film Festival or cannot watch it on streaming, to look for this movie in August, because this is a good movie. It's a feel-good movie. It is one of those movies that you will like and you will watch more than once.
Exactly.
It's a perfect date movie. So if you cannot see it at this festival, and if you cannot see it at another festival down the road, be on the lookout for this when it's released. You will appreciate it. So we'll end on that.
Absolutely. I concur. Thank you guys so much for your time. Be safe out there. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Eric.
Guys. Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.